Welcome to Marvel Champions Podcast, a podcast about Marvel Champions, the card game. I'm your host, Scott, and with me, as always, my co-host, Ryan.
I am here as always.
Well, Ryan, we've been able to get a few games in recently, revisiting some of the older Cormax heroes and villains. So we're going to come at you again with another champion checkup. And this one was a lot of fun. My hero I didn't play very often. I think part of it was I bought 2 hero packs really shortly after the core box, and the hero that you played with is who I played with a whole bunch at the very beginning. So I didn't play my hero very much early on.
Yeah, we decided to make it a little thematic in the aspect of name only. I chose to be good old Captain America.
Captain Captain America.
Captain America.
And I went with the other Captain Marvel.
Nice.
Yep, a lot of cosmic shenanigans was afoot in our game.
Yeah. And we did play against Klaw from the core box, which I think a lot of people enjoy, especially in the beginning. He was kind of that all around villain. So it was a good matchup for these two.
Yeah, I think Klaw takes that complexity up just a little bit over Rhino, but it's still not too crazy because you just kind of, once you do it a couple times, you've kind of got him figured out with his mechanic. And they also kind of threw in some extra. They started using more symbols, hazard, crisis, acceleration, those kind of things.
Yeah.
In that progression of going from kind of beginner to a little more experienced.
Yeah. Well, first off, Captain America is one of the strongest heroes, hands down. And Captain Marvel, a lot of people like Captain Marvel because of what things that she can do. But I know in the past for you really haven't you haven't gotten behind Captain Marvel like other people champion.
Yeah, and I really can't say why, except for kind of what I said earlier. I played Captain America, and to me, for my play style, I look a lot on consistency of play, and like a well balanced, consistent hero. I just find a lot of enjoyment playing with. Now I play with all the heroes, but I may not enjoy them or want to take them through like an entire campaign like I would those kind of heroes that fit that niche for me.
Yeah. Well, do you want to start off or should I go ahead and go for it?
Why don't you kick us off this week?
All right. Captain America. What did I think? Well, I ran Captain America Aggression. I had this idea for a deck, and I decided. So I made this deck on Marvel CDB, and I titled it "Beat the Cards Out of You." So the whole premise of this deck was really focused on the aggression card, No Quarters, and that whole thing about that is it's 2 cost, you deal 4 damage, and then whatever excess you do, you can draw cards, and if any of them are an aggression card, you can keep it. So I thought that might be a fun little thing to do with Captain America, because he's got the redding ability, so I can thwart with them or be diverse with that. He's got his super soldier serum, which generates the physical resource that I need to do no quarter because it's a requirement. And I just thought it'd be fun to be Captain America because he's great. And I think it worked pretty good. This is maybe a little little snippet of a combo.
Combo.
But I really focused on no quarters, and I teamed that up with the aggression card honed technique, which is a 3-cost upgrade, and what it does when you pay with a physical or a science resource at an aggression attack event, then you can increase it by the cost of that event. So when I was able to do it, no quarter became a 6 damage, and then I teamed that up with follow through, which increases your excess damage by 1 for each one you have out. Only have 1, so then it turned it into a 7. So if I was killing an enemy for they only had 1 health, I was drawing 6 cards. And it in our game, because I kind of focused on making sure I had a lot of aggression in there, it hit pretty often. I was able to draw at least 2 cards, I think, every time I did it.
The thing I liked about, or like in Saw for you, the nice thing about no quarter is that it's all aggression red cards.
Yes.
So it wasn't just events. So you were kind of loading your deck pretty high with red cards to kind of maximize the whole combo.
Mm-hmm.
And it was good. My only thing that I saw sometimes is you would mill some good cards that you couldn't keep.
Yes, yeah. That definitely did happen where I milled some of his good stuff.
You had a double resource in his other super soldier serum once or twice, which was kind of rough.
Yeah, there's definitely that drawback, but it was really fun. And I will say this combo is not necessarily specific to Captain America because it's aggression cards. You can kind of do this in theory with all of the heroes. But for me, I felt like it worked really good with Captain because he's got those super soldier serums. That's the energy resource that you need. He's tough. Not the status card tough, but he can take a hit. He blocks good. He can thwart good. It just seemed like it flowed very well. I'm starting to think that Captain America almost just flows with any deck type. He's just really good to put a deck together and just play, and it would work for him. He's that kind of hero.
I noticed that too. That if you played a no quarter and whatever your extra card you had in your hand, it was nice because Captain America could just do whatever we needed to. It's like, hey, can you thwart a little bit? Sure. And with him doing a thwart, discarding a card to ready with his ability, that's 4 thwart right there, which is pretty good.
Yeah. It just worked. And that's the thing that just makes him sing. It's just he just works. And that's what I think what is appealing for him for a lot of players is just you can play him and be successful and have fun with it. And it's not one of those heroes that it's very kit focused. His kit's really good, but even outside of that, he just makes any aspect work, and he just makes playing the game fun. And there's a reason why he's always highly ranked among players.
He's a hero that I think is a great gateway hero that you can build a pretty basic deck and he's not overly complicated, but he's, like I said, very consistent. So you can do everything you need to do and not feel like overwhelmed because you have one giant deficit of your hero to worry about. And it's just fun to kind of see him work. And I think that if you got a new player that doesn't have like a hero preference, he's a good one to kind of stick in front of somebody, because you don't have to worry about like a really complicated mechanic to kind of get them tripped up. It's one that they can kind of see how well the game can play and be fun.
Yeah. He's definitely an A in my book. And the new cards just make him fun. Like I would say the new cards don't necessarily add anything to him because he already does everything. So just new cards just create more combos to see if you can make it work for him. I know people have done decks that he readies a lot. He's like, I just had this deck that's aggression, very attack focused. He's drawing cards. Protection, he blocks everything. Leadership, of course, he's Captain America, and he's got that Steve Rogers ability, throwing out some allies really cheap, which you ended up using a few times, which was nice. He's got it all, and I think this is one of the things that frustrates me not frustrates me the most. There's a lot of things that frustrates me about this game, but this is not one of them. But it is a little annoying that his shield gives him +1 defense, and it gives him retaliate 1. And then you look back on the core box, and then what's Black Panther's ability? Retaliate 1. So his ability basically is better than Black Panther, which is kind of frustrating for Black Panther. I feel bad for him.
Yeah. He is, he's Captain America. He just is awesome.
Yeah.
What was just having from playing him? I think the biggest thing with Captain America, like negative, is if you lose his shield, it's hard to get it back, because he doesn't have his ability to go fetch his shield is only set up. So for some reason, if it gets going, you're gonna wait to get it back.
Yeah, and if you do lose it, yeah, you lose your defense and you lose the retaliate. Outside of that, shield block and shield toss are the only things that are affected by it.
Right, but like his shield block
is
pretty good.
Yeah, for sure. 0 cost, preventing all the damage. That's pretty great.
Yeah, and you still get to retaliate.
Yeah. And then shield toss, I've never really used it super often, but it's a good thing to have in your pocket to be able to use.
Yeah, I would say it's one of those cards where you don't play it often except for when you need to, like when that one circumstance arises.
Yeah, like your Ultron or multiple minions. But I mean, in our game, we had multiple minions out, and I just trucked through them. It just one after another because of that combo. Like I did no quarters on one and drew a bunch of aggression cards, and then just boom, 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 and just I think I did no quarters twice in one turn.
Yeah, that was a fun little combo.
So it just kind of just kept going and going, and yeah, I mean, if whoever's listening to this, bust out Captain America and just throw a deck together and have fun with them, because that's what he does. He's just, like you said, he's just kind of for everyone. He's great.
Yeah, his 2-2-2 stat line is, to me, like the benchmark of a good, consistent hero. Yeah. And then with his ability to ready, yeah, he's just good. He would be like one if someone's getting into the game and they want to get a hero pack. They don't know which one to do. If you don't have like a favorite hero you want to play, I'm always gonna say get Captain America.
Yeah, definitely. After the core box, he is one that I would highly recommend, and Green Goblin is the other one I would highly recommend. outside of that, I think it starts to become preference.
Yeah. And ironically, that is how I did it. I got Captain America and Green Goblin on the same day.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
Yep. Only place I could find it was Barnes & Noble.
We're not sponsored by Barnes & Noble, by the way.
No. Yeah, you can get some stuff now, but I feel like you can't get anything past maybe Mad Titan's Shadow. I don't think I've seen anything past that. So
they'll eventually do some reprints. They always kind of go back and do some reprinting.
But sometimes you can catch a good sale and with Barnes & Noble. I know around Christmas time they do like half price games. So if you're looking to stock up and get some good deals, something to definitely think about. All right. I could do this all day talking about Captain America, but did you like that?
Okay.
Let's talk about the other Captain. Captain Marvel. All right, so I did Captain Marvel, and I didn't really construct a deck. Well, I modified a deck. I played a deck out there that was called 5-Hour Energy, I think is what it was called. Let's see if I can do name drop here, give him some credit.
I think it was something like that. It was, I'm trying to think what the focus was. It had a lot of lightning.
Yeah, so the whole thing was lightning and getting Nova, the Nova ally from protection out. Because he has an ability that when a enemy initiates an attack, you can spend a lightning resource and you can deal 2 damage to that enemy. Now, it was an older deck. Where is it? I'm looking out here on the database. Oh my goodness, it's not out here.
Yeah, you have, I don't think we haven't played her in a while. So when you started to play, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, she has this ability. Oh yeah, she has this ability in this card.
Yeah. So I know people had always said like she's super strong. She does so much damage and all this stuff, and she definitely does. One of her big kind of setup is her energy channel. You set it down, you kind of discard lightning resources, you spin them on the card and it puts on tokens, then you discard it and you get to deal 2 damage to an enemy for each of the tokens up to 10. So really it's 10 for 5 resource, which looking at it's not great, but it's one that you can kind of just sit on, which is really nice.
Yep.
And that's what I would do. Like, I'm going to go ahead and get this down. And if I got, I played something and I had an extra card just kind of hanging out, I just went ahead and dropped it there. So it would be worth something and not just a discard.
Yeah.
But I was really surprised with how much card draw she had. Like, it was insane. Because let's see, she's got her Alpha Flight Station. So I was lucky enough to get that out in my opening hand. So you exhaust it, you get to discard a card, but then you get to draw 1 if you're Captain Marvel, and you get to draw 2 if you're Carol Danvers. So I was actually flipping down every other or about every 2 turns. I was flipping back down because I also had an Avengers Mansion, which was really nice. And so the other thing with this 5-hour energy deck was to defend and ready, because she had the protection card that gives you +1 defense, and then her helmet gives you +1 defense regular, and then if you're aerial, you get +2. So she can turn into a 3 to 4 defense, which can pretty much stop most things. The other thing that I liked, so her Cosmic Fly is what gives her aerial, but it's also a defensive card that you can get rid of it. You can discard it to prevent 3 damage. So if you were going to take some damage, you kind of had a way out. The only thing I thought about was weird is it has 2 copies, and they can both be down at the same time, which is nice. But I just felt like 2 copies of the same card that do the same thing and don't benefit from having additional things was kind of weird.
It just gives you, once you put 2 down, obviously the double aerial doesn't exist, but it just gives you where you can utilize that, prevent damage without losing your aerial at that point.
Right. And that was the big thing, is I was trying to keep aerial for as much of the game as I could, just to benefit from the defense. So the other thing I really liked playing was on her Carol Danvers side, she just gives you that card draw, which is nice, and you can give it to, and it was convenient to kind of give it to you sometimes.
Yeah.
The other thing is on our Captain Marvel, she has a built-in. You have to discard a lightning, but you get to heal and draw a card.
Yep.
Which came in handy. Same thing with kind of if you're stuck with like a random card. And this whole deck was around trying to get as many lightning cards as possible. Discard it, draw one, heal one, then draw one.
Mm-hmm.
I think where she was a little inconsistent, we kind of found out, was we got like 3 different side schemes out, and it was hard to kind of deal with some of that. I will say she does have 3 copies of both of her like mid-level attack and her thwart event, which was kind of nice. Crisis Interdiction is her thwart one, and unless you have multiple schemes out, it's not great.
Yeah, 2 costs for 2 thwart is not great at all.
Yeah, and you have the varial to get that second thwart off of another one.
Mm-hmm.
So with the current card pool, it's kind of weak.
Yeah, it is. For her, thwarting isn't great. She does have the 2 thwart, which is good on her hero, but it's just it's not much. Her kit struggles in thwarting, but definitely not as bad as other ones. But she does have Spider Woman, which gives you that 2 thwart as well, and it confuses the villain to help you flip down, draw more cards and stuff. But yeah, for sure, her thwart card's pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, her Photonic Blast is kind of middle. I think because of the card draw, it justifies the 3 cost, as long as you've got the lightning resource.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't have to be all lightning; it just has to be at least 1.
And I think you had a Death Focus you threw in there, so you're able to pay for those a little cheaper.
Yeah, she benefited from having a Queen Carrier and a Death Focus, because she's got her Cosmic Flight's a superpower. Her Energy Channel is technically a superpower, but it's 0 cost, so it doesn't really do anything. But with all of her like lightning requirements, it was nice to have that Queen Carrier as a wild generator.
Yeah, that really helps, especially if, like you could just spin that and get her hero ability of the heal 1 damage, draw 1 card.
Yeah, what I gave up in the resource, I gained in the card draw.
Yeah. One thing I noticed with this deck that you played is I think it's designed for you to sit in hero more, but the way you played it, just because it especially just with the circumstances, you were flipping a lot more. So a lot of the defensive cards really didn't help. There was a few turns where you had defensive cards, but you're in an alter ego. So I think adjusting some of those would have helped. But even with that, you were still drawing a lot of cards and still able to do a lot. You weren't, like, I feel like sometimes in protection decks, you get stuck with a bunch of protection cards and your turn's wasted. I feel like protection has the most wasted turns out of any aspect.
Yeah. It does stink sometimes when you get the defensive. You get like all your defensive cards in your draw up at the end of the hero phase, and you end up like not using all of them. So then you're sitting in the next hero phase with cards that you can't use during the hero phase. Yeah. I think another thing that contributed to some of the not using the deck as it was really intended for was I didn't get Nova out until really late in my first deck pass. I think he was like in my last draw. So that kind of played a little bit into that. And because I saw all the card draw, because I was able to get out the Alpha Flight Station and a Avengers Mansion, I just had so much card draw that I was like, oh, this is fun. And just try to draw as many cards as often as I could.
And it made sense. I mean, that's what she's good at, and you were able to do it. I mean, you were able to pay for high cost cards because you had the energy absorption, her resource card, and you had Nick Fury, so you're able to pump him out. And then I think at least once you used Captain America's cost one less, and to make that even cheaper. And yeah, you were always drawing cards.
Yeah, because I was able to be, if I was an alter ego, I could draw one card with her ability. I could discard one to draw two with Alpha Flight, draw one with Avengers Mansion, and then flip up and heal and draw one by discarding or spending a lightning. So
yeah.
And then if I used a Photonic Blast with the reduction of cost, I was able to draw another one there. So,
yeah, is there a protection card that lets you draw cards?
So I had an unflappable.
Yes.
When I did defend and took no damage, I could exhaust that and draw a card, which was nice.
Outside of that, I'm trying to think of one.
Looking at the deck list, that was really it. Like, I took out some of the cards that from like the original deck and swapped in a few things. But like, I didn't use the readying as much because that's some of the is to ready after you defend.
Yeah.
With her, but
since
I was flipping down.
Yeah, and the thing is, because you were drawing so much, even when you had some of those defensive stuff, they just became fuel for your other cards, like your Photonic Blast or your Crisis Interdiction, and so on. So
they gave me some extra resources to play more than like one event a turn, which was really nice. Because sometimes you get those heroes that their event costs 2 or 3, and that's the like one thing you get to do.
Yeah, you were able to do multiple things, which I think in Marvel Champions, if you're able to do multiple things on your turn, that's the key to success. And that's why some people struggle with some lower hand size heroes, is because sometimes they are basically limited to one card and move on kind of thing.
Yeah, if you playing one thing's average, if you can play more than one thing, you're above average on the scale.
Yeah, hopefully you're playing one card.
Yeah, hopefully.
On your turn.
But overall, like, she was fun. I can see why people like her. I think I'd be willing to kind of revisit her a few more times.
Yeah, she I think with newer cards out on the block, there's definitely some opportunities to just make her grow, especially with aerial cards, which this deck wasn't didn't have a lot of these aerial cards, but with all the new ones coming out with Angel soon, there's definitely some possibilities with her.
That was the exact thought I just had.
It's like we're brothers or something.
Yeah, it's like we're connected with our minds.
With our minds.
All right. Before we move on to the villain,
okay,
I got one question for you. So she, like you mentioned, has energy absorption, 3 lightning resources on a single card.
See.
Hulk has his 3 physical resources.
I see where you're going.
And we haven't seen a 3 mental resources. I was thinking we would possibly get that for Phoenix, and we didn't. What hero do you think would come with a 3 science resource card?
I have one in mind. Do you have one as well?
I'm thinking Wheels is probably...
You're thinking Wheels?
Yeah. Who are you thinking? And by Wheels, I mean Professor X.
Professor X. I was thinking Mr. Fantastic.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, okay.
I know in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's not that way, but in the comics, I think he's kind of held as the smartest person.
Yeah, I would agree. And the FFG Marvel champions tend to be more comic oriented in their stories and such.
Yeah. So I could see Mr. Fantastic having that triple science.
I would agree with you more. I think if we ever got a Professor X, it would be way, way down the line when they were just kind of trying to scrape the barrel for more money.
Yeah. I would love to see, and maybe we should do an episode on mechanisms for future heroes and stuff, but I would love to see Professor X be able to manipulate the villain and minions as like his primary thing. I think that would be fun.
Okay.
Not to derail the conversation.
Right. All right. Speaking of derailing the conversation, let's talk about our villain, Klaw, Pure Sound, or whatever his whole thing is. We did play Klaw with his recommended, because I feel like when we played Klaw in the recent past, we usually switch out his encounter set with something different. But we kind of felt like, let's keep what it is, because it'll make for a better like minion game. They're stronger minions with Masters of Evil. And it's not such a... It can be sometimes a cakewalk if you take out an encounter set that plays to the villain, because all of his minions are kind of there to kind of slow you down.
Yeah.
And then you just go right for the villain, because Klaw is one of those where you just, go for the villain, take him out, and you win.
Yeah. When we were talking about the modular sets, we were like, the Masters Evil, we haven't played it in a while, because we only have played them, at least I think for me, I think I've only played them with Klaw. I don't think I've ever played them without Klaw. And we just thought it'd be good to kind of revisit that and see if it kind of matches up with some of the other stronger minion heavy modular sets that's been coming out, like the Sinister sets and so on.
Yeah, I just don't see a lot of scenarios to play them, except if maybe you were doing like a hood, or if you're just replacing a minion heavy encounter set that goes into a scenario with a minion heavy, like a 1-for-1 kind of swap.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to throw them in some of these other ones.
Yeah, they they're stronger hit points. They range from like 5 to 8, I think, and they do bad things if you keep them out there, and that's their whole thing, right? Most of the time, you can't get rid of a 5, 6, 7 health minion in a single turn. So they're going to activate against you, and they're going to do their bad thing. One, like, makes you discard a card. One, like, exhausts you. One deals the attack to every hero. So I think one, like, makes you defend with an ally, maybe. But
I can't remember.
That kind of mechanic was nice to see. That it introduced these new things, and not just like it dealt 2 damage. You had consequences for leaving them out there.
Yeah. As a second scenario from the core box, it was a good like uptick in the complexity and just diversity than Rhino and his Hydra minions and so on. So
yeah,
it was really good. 2 things. I've always enjoyed his attack, his Force Interrupt, the drawing 2 boost cards, and that's his attack. I think that's always been kind of a hit or miss, and so it's kind of fun to kind of gamble. Like, am I going to defend? Because if I defend and he hits me for 1 or 0, that's a waste. But we've seen him where he's attacking a lot more, just depending on the cards, and so I've always enjoyed that. The other thing I noticed while we were playing is just how many of his, specifically his treacheries and some of his attachments, are just the worst.
Yeah.
They are designed to just annoy your hero's setup as much as possible.
And I think that plays a little bit like thematically with Klaw. Like, he's just trying to slow you down because he's trying to get away, right? He's trying to get away with the vibranium. He doesn't really want to defeat you. He just wants to get what he wants and leave. Yeah. And he heals. He heals. The Immortal Klaw, gives him a bunch of extra hit points.
Yeah, his Immortal Klaw is always, when it comes out, it's like, oh goodness, and then you realize, oh well, if I just get rid of it, then he'll drop his health pretty quick.
It loses 10.
It's always nice to kill him with the removal of the Immortal Klaw.
Yeah, it's kind of like what sometimes the villain does to you. It's nice to be able to like do it to a villain.
Yeah. So, and in our game, we got an interesting situation where it came out in his first stage, the Immortal Klaw, and we just couldn't get rid of it. We were in a weird spot where we couldn't thwart very much, just enough to prevent the scheme from flipping, but not enough to get rid of it. And we kind of just whittled him down to the point where we were like, well, why don't we just leave it up and just beat the extra 10 health out of him, and then we'll get rid of it as soon as he flips.
Yeah. And that's what we did.
Yeah, it worked out for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily with you dealing so much damage with your events, it wasn't too bad. And I had some key turns where like I did like full energy channels to deal tons of damage. Plus I was able to do like a photonic blast. So dealing 14, 15 damage in a single turn is pretty good. I mean, I'm almost taking care of what I'm responsible for the per player hit points for a villain in one shot. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I never felt, I think there only might have been like maybe a turn or two where I actually felt like we were a little bit in danger, and it was mostly due to threat, not actually like just getting beat up. But overall, I felt like just both these heroes was just able to handle whatever he threw out.
Yeah. The other thing I noticed when we played him, he got his sound solid body, which gives him retaliate.
That was annoying.
And we ended up just leaving it out there for a really long time.
I don't think we ever got rid of it.
We did finally get rid of it. I had some extra resources at the end of a turn. I was just like, yeah, get rid of it. The other thing I think it's interesting with Klaw is he can't take too long because his attack mills 2 cards.
Yeah.
Where normally you're used to 1. He does mill his deck down pretty quick. And
you're right.
the total card count's not huge because he has 18. You back out 5 of those for the villain and the 2 schemes. And then, or sorry, it's 21. You back out 5. You add in the 7 and 7 for encounter sets. So it's not a huge encounter deck.
Yeah, I think he decked out twice on us. So we
Yeah,
had
he
2.
ended up decking out the second time very late game. I think on the second to last turn.
Yeah.
But overall, I think he holds up really well. I do think that his 0 attack on a stage 1 is a little weak.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can get really lucky and get like an advance or an assault as one of his boost cards, and it's a 0. So you can get away with a 1 or 2 pretty easy.
Yeah. I've definitely played games where he was incredibly difficult for whatever reason, and I've played games where he was a lot easier, but generally he's always been fairly consistent, like in the middle, enough to keep you on your toes, but not enough to just overwhelm you. Except for those random times that happens with any villain. But he's one that we've always continued to kind of fall back on as just a solid one we can play.
Yeah, I know a lot of people use Rhino as kind of like their measuring stick for heroes.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with the complexity, like the increase in complexity that Klaw gives you, and kind of the randomness of his encounter cards, the things that it does, can this hero survive being exhausted when they were anticipating not being exhausted?
Yeah.
Is a good little benchmark. He's a good benchmark villain, I think, to test with.
Yeah, and he like I said at the beginning of all this, he's kind of all around. He's got minions to play with. He's got side schemes to deal with. He can thwart pretty decent. He can attack sometimes easy, sometimes really rough. His attachments aren't great, and so you got to get rid of those, and that costs stuff. And there's just so much that he's able to do. He's kind of a jack of all trades villain. He can do it all, but not necessarily like overwhelming on a particular aspect.
Right.
So
yeah,
I think people should continue to revisit him. And I think you could do different modular sets and he'd work pretty good. But I think having at least some type of minions in that modular set would probably be beneficial for him.
Yeah, because he's on some of his things you discard until you get a minion. So if you cut those minions down some, it can tend to mill faster than it initially kind of wanted.
Yeah, and his minions aren't the toughest minions in the book.
No,
his
talking
armor
about toughest
guard,
minions, the armored guards do get tough, and I feel like we struggled a little bit. We didn't have a lot of ping damage or spread damage.
Yeah, our guys didn't really have any.
Yeah, you didn't want to waste your shield toss dealing 4 just to get rid of toughs.
Yeah. So I think for these, when you get one out, it's like, oh, okay, I got a minion, and you can take care of it. But when you get those, in our case, the Masters of Evil, it's like, oh, we gotta handle this. But then all of a sudden, like, you get a weapons runner, and then he surges into another one, and then they can get jumped on you, and it just takes that stronger minion to kind of help these these weaker ones kind of make a statement on the board, where without them, they just kind of become fodder to do other things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
I
I'm all about
like
Klaw. Keep
He's
them.
cool. Any final thoughts on Klaw?
Oh yeah, I beat you. Did
Sorry.
I beat you to it?
I mean, I think I've kind of already said. I think he holds up. I think he's fun to play, even if you're playing with new heroes.
Yep.
I think he holds up well.
Yeah, I think villain holds up well. Masters of Evil, I don't fear the minions the most, but they are kind of nasty if you can't take care of them right away. Captain America is amazing. Captain Marvel worked really well. There was just a lot of positive on this matchup.
Yep, I agree. I think we were well matched. I don't think villain or heroes had an inherent upper hand on one or the other. So overall, it was a fun little experience. Good champion checkup.
Yep, for sure, man.
Yeah. All right, we only have a few more Wave 1 heroes and scenarios. So if you have a special request for us for our next champion checkup of a Wave 1 or core box hero you want one of us to play, let us know by emailing us at marvelchampionspod@gmail.com, and we'll see what we can do about making that happen. If you've got some thoughts on Klaw or either one of the captains, let us know. We'd like to hear your feedback. Again, we really appreciate everybody listening. Spread the word. Tell your friends. We really enjoyed seeing the excitement, the growth that we've had. It's been really neat to see. All right, Ryan, you want to take us out?
Sure. Everyone, stay classy, and if you are tired of being a chump at this game and want to be a champ, then listen to Marvel Champions podcast and turn from a chump to a champ.
All right, see ya.
Take care.